Okay, cool. Welcome, Vlada. Could you explain us a bit more about the sign that you made?
Yes. My sign says, be bold, be sober, because in our society, what I experience is that being sober is not normal, it's actually the exception. And being, or making the choice to live a sober lifestyle is actually pretty bold. Yeah, so that's the sign.
Cool. Cool. Can you tell us a bit more about how you got involved into the sobriety movement?
Yeah. Well, I have a story about addiction as well. So I think I'm 5 years sober now. Like it's my 5th year of sobriety. And for me, my way was that I was, drinking normally. I wasn't, I grew up on the countryside with my family, and then with 14 we have this thing called, I don't even know if there's an English expression for it, Jugendweihe, where you, so it's a toast to that you're grown up now.
Like an initiation.
Initiation, yeah. So that's the first time that I drank alcohol, and then I started partying, going out, and I think it was like for 10 years or more, I drank alcohol, but I didn't know that I was addicted, because there's a difference between being psychologically addicted and like being physically addicted. It takes like, I don't know how many years. Like for me, it took 13 years to notice that I am psychologically addicted to alcohol, and then I got physically addicted as well. And once I realized that and decided to become sober, I was actually super, super afraid, because I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to call myself an alcoholic for the rest of my life. I will lose all my friends. I will never be able to go to a party again. I will never be able to dance and have fun again. And every week I have to sit in a, how do you call this? Selbsthilfegruppe. It's like the AA meetings. Yeah. And the thing that happened is that none of this actually was true. Like none of this came true. And what my mission is for the work that I'm doing is to show people that being sober actually means that you choose life. You choose yourself, you choose being alive, and you choose to take care of yourself, and you don't have to miss out on anything, because when you're in contact with yourself, like when you know what you want, when you know what you want to do out of your life, you don't need any drugs to like numb you. And that's what
I mean drugs, I mean alcohol, but also other drugs.
Also other drugs. Yeah. I mean, my main drug, I went to the clubs in Berlin and was part of the party scene, and I took other substances as well. But the thing is, I could quit all of the other substances like from one day to another, but alcohol was my main drug. I consumed it, like I said, over 10, 13, 15 years.
When did you first realize, like, oh, I have a problem this with alcohol specifically, or in general with addiction?
It's actually a gut feeling that I had. It was nothing where I could put my finger on and could tell, okay, I always drink more than all of the others. I drink during the day or anything. It was a gut feeling that told me maybe I use it for a specific reason, or maybe I need it more than other people. But since I never wanted to be an alcoholic, I didn't listen to this feeling. And I think everyone has this feeling. Everyone, like most of the people who get addicted, they have this voice like years before they tell them, okay, maybe it's too much. Maybe it's too much. And you don't even have to be addicted to have that voice in you. and it's always right. It always tells the truth.
Looking at society as a whole, you say we both be sober. It's not normal to be sober. Do you think what is the main problem that we're facing as a society?
I think it's, I wouldn't call it problem. Well, maybe it's a problem, but I think it's to be more conscious about what alcohol or what drugs actually are. And it's actually weird that we make a difference between alcohol and all the other substances. And if you look at cigarettes, for example, we're getting there that smoking a cigarette is like, you would call it verpönt in German.
Not cool.
Not cool anymore. So you need to have this consciousness that you have to realize what you're doing with the substance and doing to yourself. And I think in our society, alcohol is still, like in German, we would call it Genussmittel, which would be, what's it called? Is there an English expression? It's like something that you take in to enjoy. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it on a medical perspective, it destroys your nervous system, it destroys your body and your mind and everything. So I think the main thing is to become more aware that we are using a drug on a daily basis, and it's so accepted in our society. And I think that's the problem, that people think it's normal to drink and it doesn't do anything to them. And there's no amount of alcohol that is actually healthy, or that every time you drink, you destroy your body a little bit more.
So where would you say, like what would need to happen in society to say it's more awareness that alcohol are drugs and are bad? Do you think there also needs to be kind of like a mindset shift?
I think, when I think about it, my example is, for example, the vegan scene. Like years ago, I think I was 14 when I started first time I started out being vegan, and people would be like my family would be like, she's a hippie, and what is she doing, like totally out of space. And when I look at it now, like the scene got bigger and bigger because people get more aware what they're consuming, what they're doing, what they're doing to their body. And I think it's the same thing that we should do with alcohol. Yeah, so we have to, we should be bold enough to talk about it. That's what I'm doing. I talk about my experience, and I talk about how good it feels to be sober. And if there are more people like this, I mean, it's so good that we have the Alcohol Anonymous and all of those systems. It helps thousands of people. But I think we need to talk about it more. Yeah.
Break the taboo.
Yeah, break the taboo, and to give people a platform that they notice that they're not alone. Not alone with their problem.
Cool.
Yeah.
And could you tell us a bit more about like what you're doing currently in the sobriety movement?
Mm-hmm. I started with how did I start? With a blog. Because what I did after I did therapy, I Googled, and I thought to myself, I had this feeling that I need to do something with my story. It was super creepy because I thought, okay, no, why should I write about it or talk about it? And then I went on the internet and I Googled, and there was nothing. Like I could only find English blogs from United States and Great Britain, and I thought, okay, that's a calling. So I started writing about it, and then like the media got interested, and I did interviews and all of this, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I started podcasting, and I actually help people. Like I'm a sobriety coach or mentor, if you would like to call it that way. So I've created a program that helps people. It's a holistic program that helps people to get sober, to get more connected with themselves, so that alcohol and other drugs doesn't play a role in their life anymore.
Yeah, could you tell us a bit more about like this, because it must have been tough also to go out there with your story, like your personal story, also because of course it's definitely not considered cool to be an addict, a former addict. How was it for you? How did you get started? Like, what was the moment?
Like I said, I had this. I remember that I was in therapy, like in the, do you call it clinic, in the rehab center, and I always went running. And then I was thinking about, okay, what am I going to do with my future life? Because I had like nothing. It was actually pretty cool because I went to zero, and then I could build up my life. Like I had the chance to do something very cool with that. And then I was running every morning, and I thought to myself, okay, what should I do? Like, what is my mission? What is my purpose in life? And I got this vision of how my blog could look like, or and then I just followed this vision. It was like a feeling that I have that there's a niche, and I should do something with that niche. And it didn't feel like it was a logical thing to do. It was actually a thing that came from my heart. That the feeling that I had was that I don't want any other young woman like I was, like I am, to ever feel the same way that I did. Because I remember right before I went to rehab, I was in my Berlin apartment. Like, I was super sad, and I felt so alone, and I felt like I'm the only young woman in the world who has a problem with alcohol. And I didn't know that there were tons of groups, like in Berlin around me, tons of people who had the same story. So that was my mission and my why I did it.
Yeah, could you maybe tell a bit more, like how it was for you to find out that there are more people struggling with this, and like what is your role in the movement at the moment?
It was actually pretty cool to find out that there's one woman that I found on the internet, and she was like my role model. You call it role model, right? Holly Whitaker. She's like the icon, or my icon, of the sobriety scene in the United States. And I thought, okay, she's doing something out of her story. Like, she turned her bullshit and sadness into something huge. And then I thought to myself, okay, if she can do it, and if there are so many people in the United States and Great Britain that resonate with it, why isn't this happening in Germany? And then I thought, okay, I'm just gonna try it out. I'm just gonna try it out and see what happens. And then I think there was me, there were two other girls. We were 3 girls who actually started that movement at the same time. So there was one girl starting a podcast, me starting the blog, and 2 other girls starting a blog. And then it just got out there, and it grew, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And my role, how would I describe it? I think, you know what I like? I like to inspire people. I like to inspire people by my story, and I wish for especially women to just be more selbstbewusst. What's the word? Confident about themselves and their choice of being sober.
What would you say to someone if they're watching and they're maybe also hearing this voice in their head to say, hey, I might be on the edge or over the edge of having some form of drug addiction?
How to get help, you mean? Or what to do with this voice? You mean?
I would say, I would say, like, I guess you get help, of course, but what is the step before? Because it must be a very lonely place when you're, plus you kind of, I guess, need to accept first the voice.
Yeah, you have to accept it and to realize that there's nothing wrong with you. Like you are not a bad person when you get addicted. It's not that you're stupid or you don't have anything under control or anything. It's when you consume an addictive substance, it's logical that you get addicted. And it's an emotional thing. Like you're urging for something. There's something inside of you that you're actually urging for a connection, and you are thinking that you find the connection outside of you. And I think the best thing to do, if you hear that voice inside of you, to listen to that voice and to accept that voice and to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. And find people that you can talk to, or start ordering a book. Read a book about sobriety. Read the stories of other people who got sober. There are a lot of podcasts, like English-speaking podcasts. There are so many podcasts you can listen to. And then you take one step, and it doesn't even mean that, you know what can be very scary at the beginning, to think of, I can never ever drink again. It's like, and then you don't want to do anything and start drinking again. You don't have to think about forever. Just think about now, and then you take one step, you take the next step, you read a book, you talk to someone, you listen to a podcast, you go to a group. If you don't like the group, you don't go ever there again. Go to another group. Maybe you find a coach, maybe you find I don't know, yoga helps. It's, there's not one specific and right way to get sober. There's many ways. My way is my way, and your way can be a total different way. What helps, and leave the rest out. Yeah.
Cool. You said before, it's a very interesting point, that you say like you're not such a fan of the people who claim themselves, tell to themselves even 25 years after they've maybe become sober that, hey, I'm still an alcoholic, or hey, I'm still a drug addict. Could you elaborate on that a bit more?
Mm-hmm. If it helps them staying sober, it's totally okay. It's totally okay. I think what the sobriety movement stands for is that we don't use labels. For example, I was afraid to call myself an alcoholic, and that actually prevented me from getting help earlier. So what we are trying to do with this movement is that you don't have to call yourself anything. Like Holly Whittaker says, the only label that you have is your name, and that's it. And so we're trying to break the stigma. That's what we are doing, and to shift the perspective from you are addicted for the rest of your life to, if you choose being sober and to become sober, you're choosing life, and it's probably the best decision that you could ever do. Yeah.
Basically, how do you stay sober in our society that is where it's so normal to not be sober? It's almost encouraged. For example, if you go in Berlin, the party scene that you mentioned already, it's so abnormal to go to a club and go there sober. How does it work for you?
For me now, it works well because alcohol and other drugs don't play a role in my life anymore. So I don't judge people who take drugs. I don't judge people who drink. It's just, it's a choice, and I make a different choice. I would not have been able to do this right after I decided to become sober because I was still, like in a struggle and not knowing if it will work, how it works, and all that. So I think the main thing is to just at first find a way to connect to yourself and to get very secure about yourself, about your decision, and to actually know what your biggest triggers are and how to deal with those triggers. And there's a reason why I didn't go to clubs for like more than 5 years now, because I knew that this is a huge trigger, like this is a huge step, because that was like my time where I would like just, I don't know, everything was possible. I was just flying and then I was just falling. And so I needed to be very conscious about that. But now it works. And for me, it was very, like the biggest trigger that I had or that I have is, first of all, my parents and how do you call it, a loving relationship, like a really relationship with a partner. So for family wise, it was actually the relationship to my mother, because alcohol played a big role in my family, and my family actually used, like there was addiction in my family. Let's just make it clear. And I hated it so much. And I think there's a thing called codependency. So I hated it so much that my parents, especially my mother, was addicted. And I couldn't find a way to deal with that other than also drinking, which is super strange, but it's so normal as well. So my biggest trigger was that, and I had to figure out how to stay with myself and not make my mother's problems to my problems. And it was part of therapy to figure that out and talk to my mother and have conversations. And now we're cool. And I never thought that we gonna have this kind of relationship that we have now. So I think it's a huge thing, because addiction is actually something that has to do with relationship to yourself, or disconnection to yourself, and disconnection or relationship to other people. So you have to figure out how to do it in a healthy way. So that's my first biggest trigger. And the second one is romantic relationships. And there's actually a thing when you go to AA meetings, you have to stop dating and having sexual intercourse and everything for 1 year. Because you can also it's an emotional thing, addiction. And what I did, like my biggest trigger could be being in a relationship and this relationship stops, like a breakup. I would like, before I would almost die when someone broke up with me. And it was like, a repetitive, I think I'm losing, like, I'm just talking, it was like a repetitive, can you call it scheme? Like it would happen over and over again. I would be in a relationship. The relationship would be destructive. I would drink to have some kind of connection with myself. There would be a breakup and I would like drown in my sorrow and whatever. So I had to figure out how to not be addicted to destructive relationships as well. So what I did is I stopped dating for 4 years, stopped having sexual intercourse for 4 years now. It was a choice, like you don't have to, it's not like you have to do that to become sober. But I learned I actually learned who I am and what I want and what I can deal with, what I want to deal with, and how I want my relationship to be. And I know what to do when I get triggered. Like, I think today I can say that I cannot think of any situation now that could make me go back and drink or take drugs or anything.
Fingers crossed.
Never say never, but I feel super, I can trust myself. I can trust myself now.
So now it's also okay to go back to clubs and these kind of things that you avoided before?
Yeah, it's okay. And it's also okay. Like, there's no reason to hang out with people who drink and take drugs, but it doesn't bother me. It's just not my lifestyle, my choice of lifestyle anymore. Cool. Yeah.
And do you think there's something like half sober, half like consuming a little bit, but
you mean this micro dosing thing
not even microdosing, but like I think there's like
healthier relationship too.
For example, like because like like it seems there's addiction, of course, which is bad, and like if you I would say need it to get through life, this is a problem. But is there something as do you believe in like healthy consumption, or do you say
healthy consumption? There certainly are people who can drink, I don't know, one whiskey in half a year, like one glass of whiskey, not a whole bottle, like one glass of whiskey in 3 months or half a year, and then they don't have the urge to drink for a year. I could never ever do this. Like, there's no reason for me to like do that. I always wanted the Rausch, I always wanted the numbness and the fluffy.
The buzz,
but there are people who can handle that. But still, and I would never say you have to stop. Like, we have to make the world sober, or we have to forbid alcohol and other drugs. I don't think it will work. What works is to be more aware about what you're doing to yourself when you take it. And I think the more aware you become, the less you have the urge to numb yourself. And it doesn't mean that you cannot drink one glass of wine in 3 months if you can handle it. It's a personal thing. Like, I would not judge. If you're okay with it, if you're cool with it, if you're happy with it, just do it. But think about the consequences and think about what you're doing to yourself.
Okay. And if you have children in the future and they become 10, 15, what would be the advice that you give them?
Oh, that's a good question, because I thought about it so much lately, because my clients are like, I have a lot of mothers, and I think what's not working is to forbid. Is it called forbid? Like to say, okay, you cannot drink any alcohol, or you cannot take any drugs. I think I would talk about what happened to me, and just be a role model that you don't need any substances to be happy. You cannot prevent your children 100% to not get addicted. What you can try to provide is a healthy environment and a healthy relationship, and to make your children know that you're always there for them. And to also tell them, which actually missed in my childhood, because it was so normal to drink alcohol. My parents, they didn't know any better. They didn't tell myself that you can actually get addicted from alcohol or whatnot. So I would tell my children that this could happen, and that they should be very, very careful. And if they have the feeling that they are getting on the wrong track, that I would always be there for them. I think that's what you can do.
Cool. And so if you look into the future of this sobriety movement, like, where do you hope it stands in 5 years, in 10 years? And will you still be a part of it?
Yeah, I think, of course, I would be a part of it. I wish for the sobriety movement that it's going to be as normal as being vegan now in Berlin. I mean, it's not, in the countryside, it's still a weird thing to do. But still, I grew up in a very little town in Saxony, and there are a lot of vegan products there now. And wow, that's super crazy. So I wish for the sobriety movement that it has the same dynamic that veganism and all those topics have now. And I wish for our society and for people to try it out, to just stop for a month, stop for a year, and see what happens. See how you feel. Do you feel better? What does it do for you? And then, just be more aware and be more happy. That's what I wish for all of us, and to not, just continue thinking that consuming alcohol in like massive amounts is normal. Yeah.
Do you think if you're going to do something, is it good to something like that? Try to be sober for a month. Is it good to already start? Find a buddy, for example, or join the program, or are there? I'm not sure. Are there like tools for that out there?
Yeah, there's a thing called Dry January. It's also from the States, but there's a kind of a difference. I tried this to prove myself that I'm not addicted, because I could quit for a month and then I would do the same thing all over again. That's not very healthy. It doesn't make sense. It's good for your body for like this month, but you can find a lot of, like, there's actually an organization, it's called Dry January, that have like this Dry January challenges, or Sober October they have as well. And it's always easier to have someone like a buddy, like you said. It's actually cute. Yeah, to try it with someone else and to have this, to share this experience and talk to each other about it. How do you feel? How do you feel in your body? What does it do with you? Do you have the urge to drink? Do you have cravings? What do we do with that? So I think it could be a nice start. And I was talking actually to quite a few people who made the decision to quit for 1 year, and they felt so good after this year, they just continued being sober. So that's cool.
Cool, nice. If you're gonna try to be sober for a month, for half a year, or whatever, but you, in your inner circle, like you said, in your family, but maybe it's your friends, maybe it's your partner even, that is still using some form of drugs, like how do you handle that? And like what should you do, or what should you do if someone goes like, it's just a beer, like, but you actually want to say no?
First of all, you can only change yourself. You can never change the other person. So if you make the choice to be sober, then just take care of yourself. You're not there to solve this problem for another person. And so that's the first thing. If you notice, or if you get strange comments from your friends that tell you, well, you didn't have a problem, well, just drink 1 glass of wine or drink a beer, what are you talking about? It can get super annoying, but I think the thing is that you have to understand that you don't have to explain why you don't drink anymore. Like, no means no. There's no, like, you don't have to explain to everyone why you quit. And the other thing is, when you notice that there's a friend or a family member that struggles with addiction, what usually doesn't help is to be like, I know this, you drink, you should quit because you have a problem. Because this is like, it creates tension and this feeling of, oh my God, I did something bad and I can never stop. Or like this, I don't know what the English word is now, but it's just not a good way to help the other person.
How would you approach it?
The approach would be to just say what you, like, find words, how you feel, what you see, how you feel, and make room for, like, for example, I notice that every time we meet up, we drink alcohol. I feel a bit worried about that. If you ever have the feeling that you need support, I'm always there for you. So it's not like this, you have the problem, you have to quit, and that's it. It creates space and room, and it doesn't make the other person feel worthless. Yeah.
Are there also like just wondering some resources out there, because I've been in a similar situation myself before, that I've seen it around me, and to be honest, I never made it to this conversation because it felt like such a big mountain to climb also.
Yeah.
At the time, but like, are there, I don't know, what would you advise if like you're standing there and you feel that someone maybe is struggling in your circle, but you don't know how to approach it?
I think it actually happened to my best friend and me. Like, she noticed, well, we know each other for over 30 years now. We actually wrote a book together, and she's also writing about how it was for her to experience me being addicted, and it's like this spiral that's going down. And she was so afraid to tell me. She was so afraid, and I know how it feels like, because I had the same thing with my mother when she was drinking. I felt it was this elephant in the room, and you're so afraid to say it because you have the fear of the first thing, then it's the truth, or the other person will reject me. So, but on the other side is what you're missing out is that, for me personally, it was like my father was the first one who actually said, "You know what, girl, I think I have the feeling you drink so much." And it felt like such a relief, because he did it in a very kind way, and then felt that he's worried about me. And I was like, finally someone sees how I'm struggling, because I always felt like all the other people ignore my problem. Like, I knew people noticed, but no one would have the, how do you call it, the gut?
Yeah, be bold enough.
Be bold enough to tell me. But your question was if there's any resources. I think if you struggle with that, it's always good to, there are special places in Germany called Suchtberatung, and also if you have a friend or a family member who is struggling with addiction and you don't know how to deal with that, because of course in relationships and families it creates tension, and sometimes you just feel helpless. Yeah, so it's a good organization to go there. Alana. Yeah.
Cool. And where can we learn more about you? Read your book, listen to your podcast?
Yeah, so my podcast is called, actually changed it. It used to be called Me Sober Podcast. Now it's just called Vlada Maettig Podcast. You can find me on the internet. The website is called mesober.com. There's a blog, there's the link to the podcast, and there is the link to my book that I've wrote, and you can sign up to my newsletter. And
cool. What is your book about? Just very shortly.
My book is it's actually the story of a friendship. Like, I wrote it with my best friend, and we actually are talking about our friendship when alcohol came in, how I got like proper addicted, and Katharina, my best friend, she it actually shows two different ways how alcohol works and can destroy life, and it also is talking about our dynamics and how codependency also played a role in our friendship, and how we moved out of that. I got sober, Katharina got sober after I got sober, and it's an happy end.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. It's in German. Yeah, we'll drop a link below.
Yes.
And final question for today: what is something that the people could do today? Small steps, small positive change that they could make in their life to join the Be Bold, Be Sober movement.
Mm-hmm. I think the first step is to, if you feel alone, you can join a community. There are a lot of I know Facebook communities. On Instagram, there's a lot. If you put in sober or nüchtern in German, the hashtag, you find a lot of people. And yeah, just connect with people. There's actually a really cool Späti here in Berlin. They only have, it's right around the corner actually. It's a Späti where they only sell non-alcoholic stuff.
Cool.
It's super cool. So yeah, just check out events that are close to you. And the first step is to just try out to be more present with yourself, and maybe for the next birthday party you're invited to, you just try to stay sober and see what happens to you, how you noticed how it affects your people around you, and then maybe you are bold enough to experiment with doing it 1 year and then see what happens. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Awesome.